So welcome to another episode of Paul's Asian Adventure. I have Simon with me, and he has a YouTube channel, which is...
Speaking of Asia.
And I'll put a description, I'll put a link in the description. So you told me, or you're about to tell me a story about a stalker that you had, I think in Thailand, right?
No, it was here.
Was here in the Philippines.
It was here in the
Philippines.
Yeah.
So these women here in the Philippines, they can be very persistent.
See,
in a good way, but also in a bad way.
Except it wasn't a woman, it was a Canadian man.
It was a Canadian man.
Yes.
See, this is the first I hear there was a story.
Yeah.
He said stalker, I just assumed it was a
There
woman.
you
Okay, let's hear the story about this Canadian man.
Well, when I first moved here, I had an apartment in Simmon. And the first month I got here, I became aware I had a neighbour. I'm not going to obviously mention his name, etc.
Yeah.
But he was an elderly Canadian guy, and he lived next door to me. And you didn't see an awful lot of him. And
when you say elderly, what are you talking? 70s, 80s, 90s, 60s?
No, I think he was in his middle 60s.
Okay.
Something like that. I can't remember exactly. He's actually going back quite a while now. So yeah, he lived next door to me, and very quiet. Didn't really have an awful lot to do with him. I hadn't really seen him because where I was staying, it was a block of like 4 apartments, and they were all owned by the same guy.
Yeah.
And it was an Airbnb, but I booked it for a month and a month off for about 6 months.
Okay.
Because my plan was to go between Sikihor and try other places.
Yeah.
And I thought the guy was transient, in the sense I didn't know he was staying there full term, so I didn't make any effort to get to know him. But about 2 days before I went to Sikihor for the first time, I met him outside. He was doing something with his rubbish or whatever, and he got talking. And it turned out he was living there, and he'd been there for about 6 months or whatever. And I said, well, where do you go? And, you know, all the rest of it. And it transpired he never really went out. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, you know, I told him things. And I said, well, look, next time I come back, I'll be back in a month.
Yeah.
We'll go out have a beer or something, or lunch, or, you know,
Yeah.
we'll do something. Not necessarily meaning to find, I would do it, but I hadn't, you know, given it much thought.
Yeah.
But the first day I get back, as soon as he knocks on my door and said, when are we going to go out, etc. And I was like, okay, well, whenever you want. He said, let's go out tomorrow. So we went out for lunch at a place which was at the back of our apartment, like a little Filipino place I'd never been to before. And we got talking, and he started telling me his life story. And the ridiculous thing is now, when I look back, and I feel such a fool, because there were holes in the story, and I should have picked up on it then.
Yeah.
Because he told me he was a writer, and he was writing, I couldn't tell anyone, but he was writing Manny Pacquiao's autobiography. And that's why he was leaving at certain times. He was going over to Oslo because he had a training camp there, and he was doing this and he was doing that. And he started talking about, because he was a sports writer and he'd written these books and things. And I'm sitting out, as while I'm doing it, because I'd said to him, I like to have a beer, you know, when I go out. And I ordered Red Horse, because at the time I was drinking Red Horse. Yeah. And he ordered Red Horse. And I said to him, you want to watch that? You know, that's quite strong, because he didn't drink much. So, of course, he has 3 of these Red Horses, and he's getting progressively drunker. Yeah. And the stories are getting more and more far-fetched. And I'm not a well-read man. But he said he had written Mike Tyson's first autobiography. And I said, what, for Who the Bell Tolls? And he said, yeah. And I thought, well, I've read that. That was written by Reg Guttridge. Because one of the few books I've read, because I'm a big boxing fan. I thought the chance of him actually saying a book that I knew of. Yeah. So I said, you wrote that, but that was written by Reg Guttridge. So oh no, he's like sometimes
he was a ghostwriter.
I ghostwrite and he gets things. I don't get the credits for my books and things. And I'm thinking, you're talking nonsense. But I didn't say that. You know, what was the point? You know, that was it. But anyway, we left that, and he got very drunk. I didn't see him for a couple of days. But from that point onwards, every day he's like, would you like to come and have a coffee and things? And I felt sorry for him because he was a lonely figure. And we went out a few times and did stuff. But he said he was a journalist for Reuters. And every time we went out, he'd start saying he's seen things and all these terrible things and start getting emotional. And I'd say to him, look, we've all seen things. Because I was in the airport, I said, but let's not talk about it. You know, you could tell it, it's better to move on. Let's not, you know. And then when I said I was moving, he said that he was going to miss me and all this kind of stuff, and because he didn't really know anyone over here.
But
Go on.
why didn't you make an effort to know people? Why didn't you go out, try to meet people on Facebook or?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm kind of I've socialised with people, but the point is I should have realised then there was a problem.
Yeah.
But I said, well, come and visit me, over there. It's not that far away. You might like Sickle. And when I went there, I was staying in a guest house because I didn't have I just used to book it for the month. And he said he wanted to come over and visit. I said, yeah, no problem. And then as he was there, if this hadn't happened, God knows how life would have turned out differently. As he was there, I was going to view a place to move into, which was just down, because it's hard to get property in Sickle, because it's like, it's not a big island, there's not a lot of stuff there. So I went to view this place, and he came with me. And there were two places next to each other, a bigger one and a smaller one. One was like a bed sit, and the other one was like a one bedroom. So I said, I'll take the one bedroom. And then I started doing a vlog, because I was, vlogging the house.
One bedroom, yeah.
And then he comes and he says, I've taken the one next door. So I'm like, really? Yeah. He said, okay. So I'm on the channel. I've still got the videos on the channel. So well, there you go. This was my neighbour in Simmon, and now he's my neighbour in Sickle. What a small world it is.
Yeah.
And we went out that night, and I used to know a lot of people there. I'd say they were friends, it transpired, but I knew a lot of Filipinos there, because I'm quite a sociable person. So that night I went out.
There in Sickle?
In Sickle, yeah. So that night I went out, and I met 3 girls I know. They wasn't any related, just girls I knew.
Yeah.
And he came with me. And there was a girl who was sitting down on one of the bars, which he was looking at, and he always used to make these little signals and wave at people and do strange things. And one of them said, do you want me to introduce you? And he's like, no, I said, I don't want to introduce you, you know what I mean? Because everyone knows everyone on Sickle.
Yeah.
So she came over and she spoke to him for about 2 minutes. And as we were walking back, he said to me something along the lines like, I don't know if I want this now, I'm going to meet her and thingy, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for marriage. And I was, what are you talking about,
Marriage.
It's like, she wants too much from me and that. And he was telling me about her life and this and that, and she's going to meet him at JJ's on Friday, have a party on the beach. I'm like, how the hell did you do all that in 2 minutes? It's like, that's a hell of a conversation. So the next night we went down there because he was going to meet her, and lo and behold, she didn't turn up. That was actually before we found the apartment, because after we did the apartment video, if you're interested, check out my channel, because I've got a few videos with him. I interviewed him for the channel.
Yeah.
And you'll see he's there in the interview saying, my girlfriend's not turned up, I have nothing to do with her. And I said, your girlfriend, what are you talking about? But he went nuts about this, and he was getting really angry. And that night, he's about her, and he hated her and all this stuff. And I said to him a couple of times.
You only met her once.
I know, I haven't spoken to her for 2 minutes. So I'm thinking, this is a strange individual.
Yeah.
But anyway, he went back, he moved in, he came over a few weeks later, he served his notice and things. And like a fool, I befriended him. And I was very friendly with the bar staff and the owners of a couple of the Filipino bars. And whenever the bar closed, we'd always go to the beach or have a party or do something we were always doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I brought him with me, and I introduced him to everyone. And I introduced him to a few of my expat friends, and all of them said, there's something not right about that guy. But of course, the Filipinos didn't pick up on it. I mean, because I thought they were my friends.
Because they're so friendly, right? And
they're so, and he was buying drinks. And I realised why they weren't my friends in the end. But so I ingratiated him with them, and he made a lot of people, and he was living his best life, as far as I thought. But as time went on, his lies just started changing. It's like, we were in the bar one night, and I'm talking about thinking that, and he starts to, I was talking about parachuting and an injury that I'd had. And then he starts to, I heard him turn round to one of the guys say, because he didn't land properly, he doesn't know how to roll. So I heard this and said, I didn't know you. When did you parachute jump? And he said, oh, when I was in the Canadian Army. So I didn't know you were in the Canadian Army. He'd never told me that before. Yeah. He said, oh, I don't tell you have to do national service or something like that. And I said, how high did you jump? And he was like, I think it was something ridiculous, like 10,000 metres. Or I said, why would you jump that high? You come in low. So I'm sitting thinking, anyway, I thought this is this is nonsense, but I'm not going to call the guy out.
I mean, 10,000 meters, you'd have to have a suit on. It's too cold up there. It's like -20.
Well, you would just never do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you get killed. It just you know,
Yeah.
the reason you have injuries is because you land low. You come in too low, you don't have time to open it. Anyway, it was nonsense. But again, you know, I've met so many Navy SEALs and things over here, particularly in Dumaguete. I don't call them out. What's the point? You know, I let them talk their BS and I just carry on. So I didn't say anything. And a couple of days afterwards, he was starting to irritate me because everywhere I went, he would be there. He'd always be coming round. He's a neighbour, and he's like, you're coming round for this and that. And he was starting to get me down. And he started talking about black crocodiles when he was in, you had to watch them when he was in Afghanistan. And I'm sitting there, and he had annoyed me. And I said, Afghanistan? He said, when were you in Afghanistan? And I can't remember what date he said. It was something ridiculous, like 1982 or something like that. And I'm like, Canadian troops in Afghanistan in 1982. And I'd never heard of the black crocodiles or black alligators. Well, apparently they are a thing. But he must have read it. And I don't know why, one of my friends who had not liked him called him out and he Googled it. So there were no American troops Canadian troops in Afghanistan. And there were Russians there. What the hell were you doing? He said, oh, I can't talk about it.
I can't talk. He starts talking about it, and then he suddenly can't talk about it. Yeah.
So I thought, you know, I have had enough of this guy. He is getting to me. And I said to my mate Paul that night, I'm going to start giving him a wide berth. I can't. I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to say something to him because he's irritating me. And about 2 nights later, we were in the bar, and he was being a real nuisance to a couple of the bar staff who I knew quite well. So, like I thought, I'm going to stop this, but in a nice way, I thought.
Yeah.
So I went over and he was talking to one of them and said, come on, let's have a dance, because it was like a disco kind of thing, you know, just to get away from him. You know, Filipinos like to dance.
Yeah.
And then when I looked around, he'd gone. He wasn't there. So I thought, okay, he's gone. That's that. And I thought, I wonder if he's left because I did that. But he was being a real nuisance, you know. I mean, he was being over, like, touchy and all that kind of thing. And he kept making passes at women. And he was a lot older than I was, you know what I mean? So, but, you know, you could tell it wasn't, and they were always very young. And you know what Filipinos are like? They're polite, they laugh it off, but you can see they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So the next day, I went round to see him, and just to make sure he was all right, he said, come sit down, you know, sit down at the table. So he sat down and that. And he's like smiling and that. He said, right, listen, last night, he said, do you ever get in between me and my girlfriend like that again?
Girlfriend?
You know, we're going to have a real problem. And I was like, what are you talking about, your girlfriend? And then, I can't remember, it's a while back now, I can't remember what was said. I did this interview for another channel, I remember it a lot better because it was a while ago. But he was basically saying that he's got to stay away from his girlfriend, not to do that again, he'd let it go now. But I had a choice. I could either not do that again, or we'd agree to go our separate ways and not have anything to do with each other. And I said, your girlfriend, what the hell are you talking about? And then he stood up, like as if to go, you know, as in like violence. And I said, mate, sit down. You're about to make a big mistake here. Like, I don't know what your problem is, but don't try and intimidate me.
Yeah.
If you want to go our separate ways, that suits me. We'll go our separate ways. I am happy with that, you know, but there's something wrong with you. You know, there is. So I thought, right, that is it. We are going to go our separate ways. I'm quite happy doing that. The next night, I went to meet my friend Paul, to play pool, as I always did. Get there, he's there. Yeah. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, why is he there? And I was willing to let bygones be bygones. I said hello, how you doing to him, and I said to Paul, and Paul's like looking at me, why is he here anyway? So we went, and he just got up and said he was going. And I'd said to Paul, I said, I'm only staying for a couple of games because I'm meeting Richie and Leah, a couple of girls I knew up at the Rung Bar. And so I left and I got there. When I get there, he's in the Rung Bar and he's with them. And he's bought drinks for like the whole thing. So I go and try to talk to him, like, because I'm sat in the bar, and every time I try to talk to him, he's like trying to block me from like talking to him. So I'm sitting there and they're laughing about it because they don't understand,
what's happened,
what's going on. And after a while I thought, this is so childish. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So I just went off and I went back to the house. I thought, that bloke is tapped.
Tapped, what does that mean?
As in, he has a problem,
Oh, okay.
you know, he's a lunatic. But I thought no more of it. It might have been the next day or the day after. I had one of, you know, those 5-gallon water bottles? He came round the house and started banging on the door. I want the water bottle, and he's effing and blinding this and all that kind of stuff through the door. And I opened the door and I said, look, I don't know what your problem is, you know, but he said, I've had enough of you, you know, trying this. And I said, look, mate, I tell you now, avoid me. So I want the water bottle back. So I was in a bad mood.
Yeah.
So I said, right, well, give me 20 pesos for it. Ridiculous thing like that if you want it. You know, he went back and he threw the 20 pesos on the floor. And I said, right, take the water bottle. So I said, I do not want to see you again. You know, just don't come round here again. Just stay away from me. And I went out again that night to meet a friend, and he was there. So I said to myself now, this is big, I am not going to go to any of my usual places for a while. I'm just going to avoid this. I can't, because it's embarrassing when you're sitting in there and you've got this going on. So I started going to other places for a little while. But of course, in that time, he had started, shall we say, buying friends with all my circle of friends.
Yeah.
And I noticed after a while that people were behaving differently to me. And then one of my good...
He's probably saying a lot of bad stuff about...
He was saying a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why one of them turned around, one of my friends said to me, who still is a good friend,
Yeah.
said, were you really in the Air Force? And I said, yeah, I was in the Air Force, yeah. He said, no, because CG's telling people you weren't. And I'm like, what? And apparently he was Special Forces now in the Canadian.
Oh, yeah, so...
And he doesn't like stolen valour like mine. And that's why
Yeah.
we fallen out, because I had stolen valour.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, as I said to us, listen, mate, I was in the RAF police for 9 years. No one lies about that. If I was going to make up a story...
And you have pictures and all that stuff.
I'd be like Special Forces, you know what I mean? No one makes up they were in the military police. I mean, why the hell would they? And she's like, oh, and I thought, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
As I say, I kept giving him a wide berth, and I was hanging out more with a couple of friends that expat friends.
Yeah.
And they were saying, like, what's going on with I almost said his name then. I've seen him going around with people, and I'm like, he's popular all of a sudden. He's going, and a couple of times I did go to the rum bar, and each time it was like there was a split. He's got his crowd, and he's literally buying everything for everyone. And people look at me and they're coming over and talk, and then they're moving back again. I thought, this is...
Every time they want to drink, they move back.
No, well, there was an element, there was an element of that, but you just felt uncomfortable. You see people thinking, right, who do I do? And I'm thinking, this is insane.
Yeah.
You know what? And at any time, if he'd wanted to bury the hatchet, but he walked past my house a couple of times and he's shouting things through the window. And I said to the bar owners, a couple of other people, I said, he is pushing me into a situation where something's going to happen. And I don't want to get in trouble here. And he's a lot older than I am. And there's something wrong with him. Yeah. But everyone kept saying, just make things up, you know, be friends again. I said, I can't be friends with him. You don't understand. There is something wrong with a guy. Yeah. You know, you can't be friends. But they didn't get it. And then he started becoming more brazen. You know, he'd just look and he'd, like, a couple of times when he goes like that when he's having a drink. And I'm sitting at the bar by myself. So in his mind, he's taken all my friends. Yeah. And, like, you know, he's like winning because he'd be looking like that. And it always looks if I was watching him. And I'm thinking, this is just... And then one night, I was... a friend of mine, John D, had opened a cocktail. He had a cocktail, but he'd opened another one. And he invited me down for the opening. And I got down there, and there was a couple of my Filipino friends. And I said hello to them. And they were like, hi. But they weren't particularly friendly. And I thought, what's going on here? Yeah. And then he arrived, and they were waiting for him. Because he'd ordered the drinks and things. I thought, I can't be doing with this. I'm leaving. Yeah. And as I'm walking away, he said something like, loser, where are you going now, like kind of thing. So I went to the bar back to the rum bar, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do here, because it's like, you know, I want to avoid the guy, but he's kind of pushing me into, and, you know, why are these people, you know, I just couldn't believe it was happening. It was like, you know, I think, what is going on here? And then it was the kind of place, about 10 o'clock, it would start to get busy with backpackers and things. It was quite quiet until then. And the place filled up. Yeah. And he arrived with his entourage. And he walked past me a couple of times and he made a couple of comments. And one of my expat friends said to me, look, come on the beach, avoid him, he's an idiot. And I went down, I thought, I'm getting pushed to breaking point. And I went to go to the toilet, and he jumped in front of me, and he right to my face, he said some abusive comments. And I said to us, look, this is your last warning. I'm telling you now. You pushed me too far. And then when I went to come out the toilet, he came at me like that. So I thought it was something, so I headbutted him. And he went flying, you know, onto the ground. And I was defending, in my mind, I was defending myself, and I warned him to stay away from me. And that was that. And, like, you know, people are what's going on. But a few of the staff saw what happened. They saw him come at me because the manager asked the next day, and the waitress said, no, he did. I heard him say, stay away from me, and he came out. So anyway, he went down. And I was just so angry. I went down back onto the beach, and then a few of the Filipinos that I knew came over and said, you know, like, what's happened? I said, look, don't even talk to me. I've been telling you for weeks something was going to happen.
Yeah.
That guy's crazy. And the thing I forgot to tell you, I was talking to an American guy I knew over there, Robert, and he's got a channel. He's quite a well-known guy on the island. And he had met this woman, what was that, Eve, I think her name was. And she was a behavioural psychologist. Oh. And when we'd been sitting there, she had said through the thing, there is a guy that keeps coming over, leaning over and looking down at us. And I looked up at him, and Robert said, oh, that's his neighbour. And she said, he's got issues. You can see the way he's rocking. There's something wrong with him. He keeps coming round.
Yeah,
like,
she
said, he's got problems. And I said, yeah. He said, no, but he could be dangerous.
She said, yeah, I know he has.
So I know
you don't need to tell me that one.
He said, he could be dangerous. He's an old. And I said, look, he's an old man. He's like, I'm not worried about him. So anyway, that happened. I went down. I sat with him. He left, or I don't know what happened, but I snapped at a few people that time. I said, look, I don't want your help now. You know, I've been telling this was going to happen. I've been warning you. You're supposed to be my friends. I've been asking for help for the last 2 weeks. I've been saying, what do I do in this situation? Because I don't want to get arrested in this country. I don't want to get deported or whatever because something happens. But how the hell do I stay living next to him when he's behaving like that to me? You know, I'm doing my best.
The only option is moving.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that. Fortunately, a friend of mine, Robert, he said, I'll give you a lift home, because I had my scooter there and he had his car. We got there. As we pulled up, he's in the middle of the road, like, you know, waiting for us. He'd obviously been waiting outside for us to get back. And Robert's like, what's wrong with that guy? He's crazy. I said, he's crazy. I said, look, but I've had enough of this. Unfortunately, I took my glasses off. I had a feeling there might be a problem. Yeah. So I took my glasses off and I walked towards him and I said, like, what is wrong with you? Why can't you just leave me alone? As I said, I should have remembered, he had his hand behind his mouth. But then he pulled it round, he had a stick. And he had this stick with nails sticking out the top of the stick. And he hit me and he caught me round the top of the head. And he took off the top of my ear. I didn't realise that at the time. Yeah. And then he just tried to lay into me. Now, I had been drinking, but fortunately, I used to box. I mean, that's one of the reasons I joined the Air Force, not to make outside stuff, whatever. But I was able to cover up. So he hit me about 4 or 5 times. And he did knock me to the ground, but they were just cuts on the hands and that, because I was able to, like, cover up.
You didn't counter?
Sorry?
You didn't counter?
Oh, no, I did, but he's like, I didn't know what was going on. I literally covered up. He hit me a few times, and I took him down. Yeah. And then I got the stick off him, and then he ran off. And he locked himself in the house. Yeah, of course. And I went to go out, and Robert was like, don't go after him. And I was like, and then he said, oh, Jesus, look what's happened to your ear. If I'd known he'd taken the top of my ear off, I would have gone after him. But as far as I was concerned, because the adrenaline, he hadn't done any damage. But I saw my hands were cut and thing was there. And I'm damn lucky he didn't take an eye out, because it was literally, because they were building next door. I don't think he'd put the nails in. I think it was probably, I don't know where he got it from or whatever. So I went back into the house and I banged on his door, but he didn't come out. And I went in and I made a Facebook video straight away to show people here and that. Because I thought, this guy, he's going to come in again. Something's going to happen here. Yeah. And I want to make a point of his flat, because I thought if he comes in the house now, I'm entitled to defend myself. Yeah. You know, because he could come with a kitchen knife or something like that. So I did a quick video on Facebook and said, look, this has just happened to me. My crazy neighbours just tried to kill me. I'd taken a stick off him. I said, he's hit me with this. This is it. Look what he's done to the top of my ear. Yeah. You know, Robert was a witness to it. I've got witnesses. You know, if anything happens now, it's self-defence. I'm in my house. I haven't chased after him. you know, it's self-defence. I woke up in the morning, he'd gone. His bike had gone, he'd just disappeared. So because I came out and I looked at it, it was gone.
But you didn't go to the hospital that night?
Well, no, I did. Because one of my friends came around. Because I put it on Facebook, Ellen had seen it, so she'd phoned one of my expat friends and said, please go round. And no, he came round, but I'd said, I'm not worried about it, he'll be fine. But another Filipino guy I know, who was a nurse, who lived close, he came and said, look, you've got to get to the hospital because they won't be able to stitch you back on after 12 hours or something like that, you know. So I said, all right. So he took me to the hospital. They stitched it back on. And I got back, he wasn't there, he'd gone.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I don't want, anyway. I was angry at that stage after I'd had the ear stitched back on.
Yeah, I get it.
But of course the trouble was, I had put it on Facebook. So everyone on the island knew about it. So every restaurant I went to, or every bar or hotel I went to, all the owners are coming out saying, look, you've got to report this to the police. If you report it to the police, you've got to get him in a blotter. You've got to get him off the island. You know, we don't want people like that. The guy's crazy. And I was like, well, you know, I don't, even though I was in the military police, where I come from in London, you don't really report things to the police, that kind of, it's just not, it's not a cultural thing. So I'm like, I don't want to, as far as I'm concerned, it's done. You know, I'll sort it out next time I see him, kind of thing. but he didn't come back. And then eventually I was convinced by a number of people to put it in the blotter, because if something else happened,
blotter?
Well, they call it the blotter. You go to the police and they record it. It's called a blotter.
Okay.
The point being, if anything else happened then,
yeah,
it was in the blotter that it happened, and you know, that would help you in your thing.
Pursue justice, yeah.
Well, no, that it was self-defence if something else happened. The point is, because they might say, well, why did you not record it before? So eventually I went down there, and the police weren't interested at all. They just wrote it down, and they were like, oh, and I'm like, what happened? Nothing, you know, I'm thinking, oh. So the guy has they didn't want to speak to him or whatever. They said, if he does it again, phone us, and it's in the book, and then it'll be more serious next time. So I'm like, okay. And then that was that. And about 2 days later, he turned up again. I have no idea where he went, why he went, or whatever. But he was there. And people kept saying to me, you've got to leave, you've got to leave, you've got to get away from him, you've got to move. I'm like, I'm not moving because of him. Yeah. But the thing is, people find this hard to believe. A lot of people say I moved because of him. Anyone who watched my channel will know I was getting cabin fever. Anyway, island fever. I'd had enough of it. I'd sent in several videos the week before. I'm getting bored with this place, etc. The only thing that is keeping me here is my circle of friends. Yeah. I've got a big circle of Filipino friends. I've got an active social life. But as soon as that happened with him, I thought, these aren't my friends, because they all disappeared. There was only 3 Filipinos out of all of them who checked how I was or took my side.
Yeah.
All the others either wanted nothing to do with it or they were on his side. I don't know. I said to the nurse, and I'd known him a lot longer than the other guy, and I said to him on the way out, I said, what do I do in this situation? I mean, what do I do? He's taken my ear off, he lives next door to me. What am I supposed to do? And he said, well, try and stay away from him. I'm like,
he's your neighbour.
You know, you know, that's a lot of help. So I resolved, then I'm leaving. I thought, you know, I still look back now, I think he did me a favour, because he gave me the key to leave. I learnt a valuable lesson. Never since I've in the Philippines since have I splashed the cash on drinks and all that, because I was buying friends over. I didn't realise that. It made me reflect on myself.
Yeah.
And that is not the biggest disappointment is the friends I lost, but also the biggest plus is realising they weren't my friends. Yeah. He gave me the key to leave, but equally I thought, I'm not leaving because he's forced me out. So to cut long story short, I made a point of staying until my rent was paid to the end of the month.
Yeah.
And plus it was the Easter, you know, New Year and that. So he was back, and we did have about 5 days where we were living next door. I drove past him one night. He didn't scare me. Yeah. I was confident I could take in a physical confrontation. Yeah. But I was still putting a chair behind the door at night, and I'm sitting there thinking, what if...
Yeah, because I want to come with a knife.
I don't know, I had a knife under, but I wasn't that, you know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, my woe, and then you start thinking, wait a minute, there are bars on the window, what if he puts fire, you know what I mean? It gets you thinking. Yeah. So I'm not trying to make, I was really bulletproof, I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't going to be intimidated, I wasn't going to be forced out, but it wasn't a stressful period. I was waking up thinking, what the hell's that noise, whatever, is he trying to come through the door? Yeah. But then yeah, the time came. I moved away, and that was that. You know, I moved on. But for months, people kept asking me in the channel, how have you got over it? You know, you must still be, or is he still there? And I was like, I don't care.
But did you ever find out if he's still there?
Well, this is the thing when I mentioned you before, I've never spoke about on the channel.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe a word of it. This is the story that I was told, okay? And if he is dead, then rest in peace.
Oh, he's supposedly dead?
Yeah, but I don't believe a word of it because he was such a fantasist. The story goes is this.
But who told you that story?
Well, I got messaged by a couple of friends from
Secure.
yeah. And the story was, he got in a relationship with a woman after. God, I feel sorry for her. He got in a relationship with a woman afterwards.
Yeah.
And they were together. Then he was going back to Canada for something. Then he got to the airport. He felt really sick, got on the flight, and then was diagnosed with stomach cancer and only given 2 months to live. So when I got messaged this, like a friend said, yeah, karma's a bitch, isn't it, blah, blah, blah. I thought about it, I said, I don't believe a word of that. I don't, for a guy...
How would they know that he died of cancer in Canada anyway?
No, that was the point. He told his girlfriend
that he had cancer.
That he'd only been given 2 months to live. Yeah. So the message was, he is dying.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a bit convenient, isn't it? He doesn't have a single, sign or whatever, then suddenly gets to the airport.
Yeah.
And then a couple of months later, I got the text message and his girlfriend was on Facebook, because a friend of mine said he's died. He died yesterday, died last night. And I was like, where? And he said, I think it was Sickle. And he said, no, it's in Canada. I said, and then he said, if you don't believe me, check her Facebook page. And there she was saying what a wonderful man and that he was. But as I said to Wed, I said, I don't believe a word of this. So someone's phoned her from Canada to tell him that he's dead. I don't really care. I mean, maybe he is.
Well, it could be.
He could be.
Or it could be that he's pretending to be dead and he knows you're here in Duma and he's stalking you here and you don't know about it.
There is a distinct possibility. There is a distinct possibility. Wait a minute.
Who knows, man?
You're going to rip your mask off and you're straight onto me. But I personally, you've got to assume, haven't you?
Yeah.
He wasn't happy with his girlfriend or whatever.
Well, he doesn't
and then he made up the story about
people like that are not happy about anything, to be honest. They don't find happiness. And probably the reason why when you met him he was all alone is because the people who were friends with him just had enough of him and did everything to avoid him, so he was all alone. I mean, how can you be... you've been here for a few months, 2 years, and you know how easy it is to make friends here in Dumaguete. I mean, if you want to make friends here, you just go out, you go on Facebook groups. It's easy to make friends here, in my opinion. Now, I'm easygoing and I meet people easily, but even if you're a bit awkward, I think it's relatively easy to make friends here compared to the West. And the only way you're sitting alone at home with no friends is there's an issue.
No, there is. I should have mentioned this. I'm so busy trying to remember what happened, I missed the details.
Yeah.
No, there was a serious issue there because he, at nights, even when we were friends, you'd hear him screaming and shouting. He'd be like, in the night, because I could hear, even though there was a space between us, you could hear it. And he'd be screaming and he'd be banging and he'd be shouting at things. And like the next day I'd say, what happened last night? Sometimes he denied knowing anything had happened. Yeah. And other times it would be like he was on the phone to his sister or something. And he'd said to me, he had 2 kids who never wanted anything to do with him. And there was something there, but he was making these noises, he was screaming, he would say things, he had stuff there. And someone quite recently, I don't know if they really are a psychiatric nurse or whatever, but they'd seen the video I did for, because I did an interview for Irish Times with Peter on there, and I spoke about it then. And they said, because I've got a few videos with this guy, I've got the video, he claimed to live on $600 a month, which was bullshit, and I interviewed him on that. And I say he's in a couple of vlogs. And they said, she could tell, or he could tell straight away by the way he was twitching and the way his things were, that was a side effect of a common generic psycho, what do they call those drugs? Anyways, she said you can tell by or there's a strong indication by the twitches, etc. He's on some of the older, cheaper, generic...
psychological
I can't remember what you call them. For paranoid, for schizophrenia, something like that. It's I can't remember what you call that type of drug. But anyway, yeah, she said a few people have said that. And when you do watch back the videos, that's why I say I'm kicking myself. There were so many warning signs.
Yeah.
But no, he definitely.
I'm surprised you didn't see that because you were in the military police, right? And you kind of have to read people as a policeman. So.
Not really.
Not really.
not much crime in the RAF, mate.
Okay. But like a normal policeman really has to read people, read the situation, and so yeah.
Well, I just turned a blind eye. I mean, as I say, there were warning signs there, but I never thought he was dangerous.
You're like giving, I know what you're saying.
Just
giving the person the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes it's a mistake.
There were people I know here who were full of it, shall we say. You know, I just still smile and, you know, take it on board. I don't see the point of calling people out. I mean, it is...
Yeah, just avoid them.
Yeah.
That's the best thing, walk away.
But anyway, that is my stalking experience in the Philippines.
Well, that's quite a story, I have to say. That's quite a story. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and avoid the stalkers, whether it's male or female. So with that, thank you for watching another episode of Paul's Asian Adventure. And be sure to watch Simon's...
Speaking of Asia.
And I'll put a link in the description. And if it's okay for Simon, I might put a link to a couple of the videos of the interview with that guy. Or should I?
Fine, yeah.
Okay, so I'll do that so people can see the background as well, so they can watch that. So with that, thank you, and see you on the next video.